We are now chasing a car down car jump arena, except they're really bad at this. What happens when we get to the bottom of car jump arena with these cars crashing into each other the whole way? Find out in this video. Hey, this is WhyBeAre with BeamNG.drive, and today we're going to be taking a look at the Wendover. So this is the newest official car that was added to the game. Now the vehicle you see right here, it is a Soliad Wendover, but it's not the official Wendover. This is the official one, and it's almost as good as the unofficial one you saw yesterday. So we're going to start with the 3300A, which is the most basic of versions. And here is what the Wendover looks like. Now it is based on a Legrand, but it's much more luxurious, and most importantly, it gets bigger engine options. We'll also take a quick look on the inside, and on the inside you'll see the gauges here are really cool. They're this digital style that you would not see in a modern car, and I absolutely love them, especially when you accelerate. You see the bars lighting up for the tachometer and the speedometer, and I also love the accuracy on RPM. It's down to the 10th. How often can you say, yes, my car is driving at 3,660 RPM? Usually you're like trying to eyeball it, like, yeah, it's like 3,600-ish. The accuracy is amazing. And another thing I like is how frequently the screen updates. You can see it's not like an instantly updating screen. It takes a second, which is realistic for the time period because they don't have super fast computers that can update it at 60 frames per second. It's like maybe 10 frames per second. It's not very high. We also have a thing over to the right of the steering wheel that tells you what your average fuel efficiency is. Now, I've been flooring it the whole time, so we're only getting about 7.4 miles to the gallon, but if we let up on the throttle a little bit and drive like a normal person, that number should go up. Yeah, so it's slowly going up. Now we're getting 7.5 miles per gallon on average, and it'll keep going up as long as we drive good. But we're not going to continue driving good because I need to take a look at the rest of the interior. And it's hard to do that because we won't see the road at all. Also, one thing that was funny is, did you see how fast we were going but how slow it felt like because we're so zoomed in? Funny like that, isn't it? So anyways, down here, we have another screen that's all about the interior comfort of the vehicle to make it feel even more luxurious. And I really shouldn't have to say this, but here's a quick demonstration of all the interior functionality. We got the pedals, the steering wheel, then we got the lights that'll turn on the gauge cluster. We got the stalk on the left side that goes up and down for the blinkers, and then of course a light on the gauges as well. And on this one we're missing the really cool shifter because not every version has it. So we're going to swap to a much faster version just to show you the changes on the inside. So don't worry too much about what configuration we picked, just take a look at this beautiful interior. It looks much more luxurious with wood grain all over the place, and then the crazy shifter where you need a whole fist to go from drive to park to reverse. And then of course, just everything in here looks much nicer and fancier because it's using better quality materials and it's got more texture to it, so it looks much more luxurious. So now let's head over back to the base configuration because there are still a few more things I want to talk about with that one. Now we can talk about the performance of the 3300. It's called the 3300 because it has a 3.3 liter V6 engine with a 4-speed automatic, and it's not that fast. It only makes about 130 horsepower, so we have been flooring it this whole time. You just can't really tell. We're going fast enough though to do the first crash, which is gonna flip it upside down. What are you doing upside down? Get back onto your wheels and keep on going. You ain't getting out of it that easy. Although we will take a small break right in the sun so you can get a better look at the damage. So we got damage everywhere, but I see absolutely no reason why it shouldn't be able to continue driving. And it's accelerating fine, just as slow as it ever was. The hill is doing no help for these 0 to 60 times. On a flat surface, it does take about 10 seconds to get to 0 to 60, which is an absolutely blazing time for a bicycle, not so fast for a car. Let's do a couple more minor crashes, like, oh no, there's my turn, I missed it. So you try to do a 180, but you're bad at it, so you smash your front up a little bit, and you got a good number of pieces that fell off, but it's not strategic weight reduction. We are making this car faster, collision after collision. Eventually, it'll actually make it slower because it'll just stop driving, which will probably be after this next crash, because I feel like doing a bigger crash straight into some trees. So once we're up to about 50 miles per hour, that looks good. Here's some trees, let's fly into them. There's some damage, and that is going to destroy the vehicle because the wheel is falling off and the half shafts are broken. And just for fun, we can go to first person mode to really take a look at the damage. Like, you hop out the car and be like, man, just seconds ago I was in this car and somehow I lived. And look at this piece bouncing around. Ooh, here's a fun idea. Let's rip it off. Or not. Apparently that piece is so strong, you're not going to rip it off. You're going to pull the whole car instead. Oh well. Anyway, here's a look at the rest of the damage to the vehicle. It's got damage on every single corner. That's exactly what I wanted to do. And then here's a look at the interior, because you can really see the difference in these less fancy seats compared to the one we had earlier. And then also you can see the damage to the interior on the right side as well. So now, let's go ahead and take a look at the next configuration, which is very similar to the one we were driving, but it's the facelifted version. Although, if I want to compare these cars, I should make sure they're in the exact same condition. So somehow I have to damage this car in the exact same way I damaged the last one, or here's an easier solution. We just go ahead and repair this car, and then they're both in perfect condition, ready for comparisons. And I'm bringing them both back over here into the sun so we can really see the vehicles while we compare them. So in the front, we have the original. And then the back, that's the facelifted one. So you can see the changes on the side profile of the vehicle. Previously, it had a black weather strip going around the whole side. They said, no, too much color contrast, all one color. Yes, that's much better. And then going to the rear of the vehicle, you can see the taillights on this one look like that. And we'll go ahead and get the other one and put it side by side so it's as easy as possible to see the differences between the two. Oh, the music hissing, can't get much closer than that. So there are the two rears side by side. And then we'll go ahead and pop over to the front, and they're the two fronts side by side, and they look like completely different vehicles at first until you turn the lights on. Then they have those pop on their lights and you start to see the similarities between the two vehicles. And all of the production versions of the vehicle are available in either the original or facelifted configuration, but we're now done with the 3300s and we're going to go to the S3800, which is slightly faster with a slightly bigger engine. So it still has a V6 engine, but this one's 3.8 liters, so it's half a liter bigger, and it makes 150 horsepower. Again, not very fast, but it's fast enough to bump the side into the railing and lose the rear bumper. It is kind of crazy to think this is almost a 4-liter engine and it's making 150 horsepower. That's actually pretty pathetic, isn't it? Thankfully, we can always just crash it. Keep on driving. Don't give up. Don't quit. I didn't see any messages saying something was broken, so you should be fine. Well, it doesn't drive very well, that's for sure. Here's what it looks at right now. And one thing that is kind of cool is you can see into the trunk in a very unusual angle. Normally you wouldn't be able to do that. And just everything here is really damaged up. And we are now done with this one and going on to the next one. Now there's also an SE3800, which is almost the same as the one we were just driving. It just has a handful of upgrades all over the place. So we're going to skip that one and go straight to the 4400 V8. So we finally get a V8 engine in it, and it's a surprisingly big V8 engine. This is a 4.4 liter V8, and it makes an amazing 177 horsepower. What is more American than that in the 80s? Big fat V8s making absolutely no power whatsoever. And not only that, they somehow managed to mount that engine transversely in a front-wheel drive vehicle. Oh, that thing got skewered. Oh, and you can actually see how the hood would open on the vehicle, which is something I haven't really mentioned. So actually, when it's perfectly functional, it opens from this side outward like that. And that crash did just that to the vehicle. And you can even see there's the big fat V8 engine. Well, what's left of it after the collision. That's a lot of damage, but we were going pretty fast before impact. So let's go ahead and go to the next configuration, which is going to be the Sport S 3800 automatic. So yes, we go back to the smaller V6 engine, but it's been tuned so it almost has just as much horsepower as the V8 we were driving earlier. Then we also get the sport suspension, which does not make this a sports car. It's just a sportier version of a luxury vehicle, but you can see there's still quite a bit of dip when we slam on the brakes. And then we also got dip in the reverse direction when we accelerate. And if you wanted to, you could go back and forth between gas and brake and try to bounce the car around like some sort of lunatic if you wanted to. And then lastly, we have the tiny spoiler on the trunk, which probably does absolutely nothing, but it looks so much faster now. No, it doesn't. It's barely noticeable at times. Alright, so here's my new goal. I want to see, can we reach over 100 miles per hour with this version? And then if we can, we're going to wreck it at over 100 miles per hour. So we're up to 90. We still got a lot of straightaway left. 100 is in our grasp, and there it is. And now we're just crashing whenever the road ends, basically, which is going to be at this bridge right here. Ooh, that's an interesting way to wrap it around a bridge. So we got massive damage since we did achieve our goal of going over 100 miles per hour. And at this point, I really can't even tell what's going on. It's so badly damaged. So let's go ahead and change up maps real quickly and head over to West Coast, USA. And on the West Coast, we're going to start with a car that doesn't make much sense. We're going to go with the Sport SE 3800. Sounds pretty similar to the one we were just driving. It was the Sport S versus the Sport SE. How big of a difference could there be? Well, this one, with its V6 engine, it gets a supercharger. And then it makes about 50 horsepower more than the V8 version. Why in the world do they have a supercharged V6 that makes more power than the V8? That just seems so wacky. But here we are, going at 100 miles per hour and crashing at 100 miles per hour. On this side of the vehicle, nothing too badly damaged. On this side, everything you can possibly imagine is damaged. So let's get a fresh one and take a closer look at the exterior because there are some changes. On the back, it's just a little bit more aggressive on the rear bumper, and then over on the front, it's the same idea. And then we also have that sport spoiler. It's the same as the one you saw in the previous vehicle, but now it all goes together, and it looks so much, nothing. Yeah, it's still barely noticeable when you're actually driving, and I don't even see it unless I'm doing like a mean slide like that. Then you notice just a little bit that's sticking out farther than normal. And I think out of all of the production versions, this one might be the best handling ever so slightly compared to the V8 ones because they're a little bit more front heavy. Although I think the V8s are more fun to drive overall because you got V8 power. With only a V6, you're going to crash into the wall and break both of the half shafts. Didn't expect that. Not bad on that side. And honestly, not too bad on that side either. Yeah, there's a lot of damage that's not going to drive, but it held up very, very well. Back over to here. And let's go ahead and go with the next configuration, which is going to be all the way down to the Sport SE 4400 V8. And this is the ultimate production vehicle because it has the V8 engine we saw earlier, but then it also has a supercharger on it. So now the V8 is once again more powerful than the V6 because this one makes about 250 horsepower and a pretty ridiculous 350 foot-pounds of torque. I still think it's really funny that you can buy a production V6 version of a vehicle that has more power than the V8. That will just never sound right in my mind, ever. Oh, for a second I thought we might do a full flip. That would have been amazing. But instead we do a half flip. Engine is still running, so let's see. Can we put any power down? We can put a little bit of power down, but we can't get any traction. How unfortunate. So let's pull it out of the shadows a bit so we can take a better look at the damage. Stop. That's good. Lots of damage on that side. And this side, actually a surprising amount of damage. I didn't expect it to get that damage from that kind of impact. So let's get a fresh version. And then how about we do a one-wheel burnout in reverse? And if you're getting a bit of a deja vu feeling, yeah, we have done this exact same thing before in this exact same vehicle in the exact same location. You like that throwback? I'm pointing it out very explicitly because it's one of those things where to me it's very obvious, but sometimes something that's obvious to me isn't as obvious to the viewers because I experienced doing it and you only simply watch somebody do it. And this crash here, it's keeping on the same theme. We're crashing the exact same way after we did the one-wheel burnouts. Right side up, right side up. No, not quite. Almost made it. This one doesn't have much damage though, so if we just flip it onto its wheels, it should keep on driving. That was a very violent way of flipping it onto its wheels, wasn't it? It's smoking, it's damaged, but it's going. And you can see the induction system was damaged, and we're running at absolutely no boost from the supercharger. It's just stuck at -1 PSI. And that's really interesting because that's something that we would never normally see before the latest update. You would never see it where you have a supercharger or a turbocharger that's busted, but the engine itself is able to continue driving. So that's pretty neat. And maybe someday in the future I'll have a video that goes into more detail on that later on. But now it's time for another crash. Flying in the air and landing it beautifully. Oh, come on, come on. Nope, it's not doing anything. It is done. Here's one final look at the damage to this car. I got some damage all over the place except for this door. That door is pristine. How funny is that? Alright, so next configuration we're going to be taking a look at is not exactly a production version. It is the police interceptor. And this one is basically the same as the V8 configuration we were just driving, but it's police-ified. So it's got the police lights, the police bar on the front, and then of course the police paint job. So performance should be close to identical. Technically it'll be a little bit slower because it's less aerodynamic and a bit heavier, but I don't think it's really noticeable. As you see, we are already up to 100 miles per hour and still accelerating. Can we get up to 120? That's what I'm gonna set for the goal, and it's really topping out on me. Come on, 120, 115. It's not gonna make it, so let's just crash it instead. Wow. That is actually quite impressive how well the car held up. Yeah, the whole front kind of just went and disintegrated, but the driver's compartment, it held its shape strong, going over 100 miles per hour on that one. And that's really all we need to do with the police version. So now we can skip along and go to the street tuned. And this one is where things are starting to get a little crazy, because once again it has the Supercharged V8, but this version is extra supercharged. It makes 375 horsepower and over 500 foot-pounds of torque. That is a lot of power, still going exclusively to the front wheels. Every version we've driven so far is just front-wheel drive, even though you can get all-wheel drive in the racing configurations. And you can see this one's much faster than when we were just driving. And let's go for a little bit of a flight, 130 miles per hour, flying into the air. Are we gonna land on our wheels? Come on, get lucky. Oh, yes, we are gonna land on our wheels. Can we continue driving, though? It looks like it's not gonna drive. It wants to. It's giving it a real try, but it just can't seem to accelerate past about 1,000 RPM because it got too much damage. Oh well, we'll just get a new one. And I want to drive this thing around a little bit more so I can show off its speed. So here we go. We're gonna just floor it going along here. You see it's got wheel spin. That's fine. Oh, and by the way, those stats that I mentioned earlier are before the addition of the nitrous. It's not a really big aggressive bottle of nitrous, but it is there adding some additional horsepower. So that means the overall power of this thing is over 400 horsepower going just to the front wheels. A little bit wacky there, but it is fun to drive at least, and that truly is the most important thing. And this configuration is the fastest front wheel drive version. There are some faster ones, but they're all wheel drive. So let's go ahead and do a crash into the rear end of this thing, sliding into it, and nice hit. Right where I wanted to hit it, and we got some serious damage after that. Well, it's not steering very well, but you can clearly see my big bottle of nitrous in the rear. And if you actually look at the damage, it makes sense why I won't drive. We're missing a wheel, and we have damage in just about every single location you can possibly imagine. It's impressive we can put down the power at all, even if we can't steer. So that's going to be it for the street tune configuration, and now we're going to take a look at the next one, which is the safety car. And this is a very basic version of the car, but it gets a cool paint job and a cool set of lights. Yep, they're both cool. That's it. They're not amazing or awesome, just cool. Now for fun, we're going to spawn up another car. This is the race configuration. We'll be taking a closer look at it in a minute. But right now, what I want to do is I want to pretend I'm a pace car doing pace car things. So I told the AI to follow me, and if I had to guess, this is the second time I've ever used follow me. The first time was me showing it off when it was in an update, and then I've never used it since. Oh, AI, what are you doing? Come on now. This is why I don't use follow me. They don't know what the heck they're doing. And look how far back they are. I want them to follow me kind of closely, not a quarter mile back. Come on, accelerate. You have a big fat engine in there. Go faster. I'm in a basically stock piece of junk that has like 150 horsepower. It's front wheel drive and it weighs over 3,000 pounds. What are you doing? Okay, you know what? You're so far behind. I'm just going to come to a stop and wait for you. Okay, you're finally caught up. Good job. Don't come to a stop. Let's go. Come on. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe I expect them to follow closer than they actually will. Like, I want them to really be up on me so it looks like they're actually following me like a pace car, not a quarter mile back. Like, yeah, I'm following your path and I'll get there eventually. This is a race course. That's not how it works. You're going to get black flagged for that nonsense and get kicked out of here. Alright, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just drive a little bit. Like, actually drive and see how far behind do they fall. Because they have no reason to fall that far behind me, especially with me doing the corner this badly. This is so slow and awful. Did they change this corner, or has it always been that tight? I don't know. Anyways, looking at the AI and wow. You call that following? Pathetic. Let me show you how it's done. You just need to stop. You're embarrassing yourself. You're embarrassing me. You're embarrassing the people who made the car even. Everybody's embarrassed. So we're telling the AI to flee from me and I'm going to chase them. Really? Amazing AI. You're just going to slam right into the wall. Okay. Well, you know what? Forget the AI. Let's just talk about the race version of the vehicle. So with this one, we actually have less horsepower and torque than the street tuned. We only have 300 horsepower and about 350 foot-pounds of torque, but it's all-wheel drive and it's lighter and it really puts the power down a lot better, so it ends up feeling just as fast, if not faster, than the street tuned version. And of course, the handling on this one is even better than the street tuned. And the street tuned has a race suspension. That's an exact quote. But when you drive them side by side, all the little things really add up and it makes this one drive so much better. Also, I like the paint job on it. It's yellow and black. That's a real nice color scheme, good contrast. And I swear, they really did change that corner, didn't they? I'm probably just imagining it for some reason, but that corner feels different. Every time I drive on it, it doesn't feel right. Anyways, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and do a full lap of the course with this car, trying to stay on the road as good as I can, which isn't that good at all, but we got all-wheel drive. If we fall into the dirt a little bit, that's just me making full use of the all-wheel drive. And you might have already noticed this because of the sound, but this one doesn't use a V8 engine. It only uses the V6 with the supercharger. So in the end, it's the most powerful V6 configuration. It just can't hold its own compared to the V8 configurations that are much faster than it. Well, really, there's only one that's significantly faster. And the next version we're going to be taking a look at is that faster version. And you think, oh, what a great coincidence, right? No, it's not. I scripted it like that. That's all going according to plan. That slide, however, not exactly according to plan. This is a track car. Track cars aren't supposed to slide. If you want to slide, that's when you use the fat edition, and that's fat 2 T's. I know you're like, what in the world is WhyBeAre talking about? That's the version after the next one. We'll get there eventually. In fact, we'll crash this guy at the end of the straightaway. But first, I have a question. Is the AI still stuck in the exact same corner as before? Yep. They have accomplished absolutely nothing in the time it took me to do a full lap of the track. Amazing. All right, anyways, crash time. Can we do a little good maneuver? Ooh. Strong car with strong roll cage. I'm going 120 miles per hour, and you look at it from this angle, it almost looks perfect. There's just very minor damage visible from this side. The other side, yeah, it had damage though. And look at that dumb AI. He's doing a one-wheel burnout over there, and he's going to toast the engine. Actually, the engine's already toasted. Look at that exhaust. It is spewing fumes. All right, so next up, we're going to be taking a look at the hill climb version. So this one gets the Supercharged V8, and they super duper charge it. It's running at like almost 20 PSI of boost, which means it has 650 horsepower and 700 foot-pounds of torque. And thank goodness this is all-wheel drive. If you tried to use this in a front-wheel drive configuration, which is something I might do in the future just to mess around, it would probably be a terrible experience. The only way to know for sure, though, is to test it out, which I definitely want to do. The question is, when shall we do it? If you guys are interested, leave a comment so I know, and then in the future we'll do a video that's just messing around with it. But as you can see, it is easily faster than the race version. As for handling, it's about equal. It does technically weigh a bit more, and it's probably more front heavy, so it should handle worse, but I don't really notice it. Maybe it's just because I'm so distracted by the massive wing on the rear. That wing is so ridiculously massive for this vehicle. I absolutely love it. And the only thing we haven't really done with it yet is a good high-speed test. Thankfully, right around this corner, we have a big, fat straightaway. You get what I did there? And here we go. There's the idiot still stuck somehow. And with this being a hill climb, it's not made for top speed. It tops out at like 150 miles per hour, which it can very easily reach with all of this power. So we're about topped out, and now big crash, and surprisingly a big amount of damage compared to the last one. But that's what I expected to see more. a ton of destruction, but again, roll cage pretty strong, trying to hold the shape of the vehicle a little bit so the driver in there isn't too badly disfigured. Alright, how's the rear look? Oh, the rear is perfectly intact, and that wing is just as massive as it's ever been. I love the fact that the wing managed to stay on somehow. So now, let's go ahead and take a look at the next configuration, which is the Fink Appliance 10,000. And this one has a whole paragraph of a description, so I'll read it to you as we drive. But first, here's a quick hint as to what this vehicle is a reference to. Now, as I was saying, the Fink Appliance 10,000, or FATT for short, is the brainchild of an eccentric billionaire who in 1994 set out to create the ultimate law enforcement vehicle. Fitted with all the best of the catalog, the FAT features state-of-the-art 1990s technology such as the iconic strobing radar scanner, digital HUD, and a tape player. Although only one FAT was ever produced, it was used to great effect by a lone detective throughout the 90s and early 2000s to bring justice to the streets of Alaska. So do you know what this is a reference to? If not, you're probably young. If you're an adult like me, you easily know what this is a reference to, but I'm not gonna say it. Haha, children. All the adults get in here and laugh at the children. And as you saw, it drives pretty good. We were sliding through all those corners, having a good old time. This is an all-wheel drive version, which allows you to have some more fun as long as you don't crash it. Ooh, that was very close to crashing. I don't want to crash it because it's a beautiful car. This next one, the rally version, yeah, we can crash that as much as I want. And before we get to driving, here's a quick look at the paint job. This is the BeamNG machine. And this one, it's not too pretty not to crash, so yeah, just bump into the wall a little bit, that's fine. I mean, shoot, this is a rally car. Rally cars are durable. That's nothing but a scratch to a rally car. In fact, that's nothing but a scratch to most people who just drive a car. It's like, oh, my bumper's a little messed up. Oh, well, I don't care. All right, so here we go. We got the first jump. Can you rally? Slowing it down just a bit. Nice and smooth. Oh, that was good. Next jump, also nice and smooth, but let's go a little too fast this time to get a little more violence in the landing and really test that rally suspension, which did a great job. And this should be the most violent of all. Big jump, big landing, and it was clean. All right, on this next one, we're just going to go as fast as possible because it's much safer to overshoot it than undershoot it, and it made the jump perfectly. So rally car capability is pretty good. The weird thing about the rally car, though, is it's using an inline-4 engine that's not found on any other version of the vehicle. It's just kind of a special engine made just for this guy. Because apparently the V engines weren't reliable enough or something. It doesn't say why. It's just that's the kind of engine it has, which is strange. Anyways, time to flip it. Getting onto its side or just breaking the wheels. Okay, well, I guess that works too, sure. That's okay because we are done with the rally version anyways. So now, let's go ahead and finish this up with some destruction. And we're going to start with something a little bit different. We're going to go to Car Jump Arena. And by the way, if I did that dumb thing where I put a random clip at the start of the video, I would be like, the Wendover is quite possibly the best vehicle I have ever seen for BeamNG.drive. So the question now is, how far can it fly at Car Jump Arena? Well, it can fly pretty far after the first jump, but the real question is, how far can it fly after the second jump? Find out in this video. And here comes the answer. The answer is at least 200, at least 300, and about 400. Not bad. And here's a fun fact. This was actually the first clip I recorded for this review because I wanted to use this clip in the April Fool's video yesterday. So somehow I'm going to work it in and you won't even know it until I said that. And they'll be like, oh yeah, he got me. And I have a really dumb thought I got to test. What happens if you try to chase a car down Car Jump Arena? Do they actually drive down the hill or do they screw it up somehow? So we're going to find out. And I know I already said if I did that dumb thing where I put a clip at the start of the video, it would be that. But I used that clip for the last video. So you know what? What if we instead recorded a new clip and then used that clip for this video? And then for that clip, I could be like, we are now chasing a car down Car Jump Arena, except they're really bad at this. What happens when we get to the bottom of Car Jump Arena with these cars crashing into each other the whole way? Find out in this video. And the answer is, I spin out halfway through and they are going surprisingly slow. Turned out skidding on your roof slows you down quite a bit. But here we go, we're still going almost 100 miles per hour, which gets us not even to 100. We didn't even get to 0 basically, but now I get to roll down at least, which is kind of fun. And oh yeah, I'm the police. My job is to capture the criminal. Criminal, where are you going? Oh, He just juked me. No, 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 no. You do not juke the police. I am still gonna get you. My car has just enough drivability to drive over there and get you. And captured the criminal. Excellent. Now, we're gonna finish up the video in the more traditional way by going to Brutal Slope. And for Brutal Slope, I want to use a nice fast version, but I don't want it to have a roll cage because I like seeing it go squish. So we're going to use the street tune configuration, which should be perfectly acceptable for this application. And we're not even going to bother with the nitrous because it won't make that much of a difference because, being honest with you guys, most of the speed comes from falling down the brutalest of slopes that you'll ever see. Not that much actually comes from the engine, unless you have a car with like 3,000 horsepower and it's just stupid bonkers insane. You know what I'm noticing? The modded Wendover went a lot faster. How disappointing are you, real Wendover, going so much slower? Alright, so the camera is ready to go in 3, 2, 1. Big crash, 100 times slow-mo, can't go any slower than this. And is the car going to evaporate just like before? Yep, pretty much. Just as expected, cars don't like being crashed at well over 200 miles per hour. But that's a well-known fact. I'm not telling you anything new. So let's go ahead and speed this up and then take a look at the remains of the vehicle. And you know what? Let's go to first person mode to look at it. Wow, that was a car at one time. Sure it was. Really, it doesn't look like a car. Like, you see maybe a seat of a car in there, but it doesn't look like a car. It looks like part of a car. And now, to finish everything up, let's just go ahead and head over to Leap of Death. And for Leap of Death, we'll use the exact same car because it seemed to work great at Brutal Slope. The only thing I'll change is I'll give it a nice fire red color. You gotta love the words on the name. It's not just red, it's fire red because it's firing fast. Look at this, 70 miles per hour, didn't even use the nitrous because honestly it probably wouldn't have done anything because it won't kick in until like second or third gear. Oh, and by the way, I know there are some black spots on Leap of Death, and there wasn't the last time. Apparently, for some reason, the changes I make didn't save properly. I don't know exactly what I have to do different from the last time I fixed Leap of Death, but either way, I'll fix it again, and eventually it'll work properly. But right now, it's working good enough. We don't need to see all of the green spots. It's just a little darker there. It's mud now. That's what happened. The grass turned to mud, okay? So anyways, there's the damage to the car. As expected, lots of damage. And until next time, this has been WhyBeAre. And remember, if you like or even dislike this video, I will know. I can tell using the exact same reason as the last video for the bend over. So do the right thing, and I'll see you next time.